Paul Hogan built an empire out of a single character and lost almost everything that mattered along the way. Behind the roaring laughter, the glamorous red carpets, and the iconic knife jokes that made the entire world grin, lies a deeply private story of sacrifice, heavy regret, and two remarkable women who loved him in ways he never fully deserved. One stood beside him through 30 years of absolutely nothing and everything. The other walked away after giving up the only thing she had left to give. Now, at 86 years old, Paul Hogan has finally admitted that she was the love of his life. But which one did he mean? And what did it truly cost him to say it out loud finally? Welcome to the royal time of Hollywood. The bridge worker and the first love. Long before the Outback, the Crocodiles, and the staggering $300 million international box office, Paul Hogan was just a rugged young man from Western Sydney with calloused hands and no grand plans. Born on October 8, 1939, he spent his youth working as a rigger on the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge and moonlighting as a lifeguard at a local pool in Granville. It was there, in 1958, that he met 18-year-old Nolene Edwards. The courtship was simple. As Paul later recalled, "I was a massive flirt, and I liked her, and she liked me, and we got married." They wed on June 24, 1958. By the time Paul was 22, they had 3 sons, eventually raising 5 children together. They scraped by on a rigger's wage, with Nolene quietly keeping the chaotic household together while Paul worked high above the harbor. They were building a life from nothing. Then, in 1971, everything fractured. Frustrated by how talent show judges humiliated contestants on a program called New Faces, Paul walked onto the set as a deliberate heckler. He cracked jokes in his work boots and banged shovels together. The audience went wild. A massive television career was born overnight, culminating in The Paul Hogan Show. But international fame brought a unique isolation. "I was poor and famous," Paul later admitted. And that was uncomfortable. While Paul traveled the world, Nolene remained at home raising the children from the inside of a spotlight she never asked for. The distance hollowed out their closeness, and in 1981, they divorced. Yet, the gravity of 23 years of shared history pulled them back together, and they remarkably remarried in 1982. But the peace wouldn't last. The Outback and the Juilliard star. In 1985, Paul staked everything on a movie he co-wrote, Crocodile Dundee. On set in the brutal Australian Outback, he met his co-star, Linda Kozlowski. A Juilliard-trained Broadway actress from Connecticut, Linda arrived with a personal recommendation from Dustin Hoffman and an undeniable screen presence. The shoot was grueling. Linda lived in a hut on the edge of a crocodile-infested swamp, with crew members holding loaded firearms during her water scenes. Her total lack of complaint completely charmed Hogan. The film's director and close friends watched as an unstoppable real-life romance blossomed between the co-stars, despite the fact that Paul was a married father of 5. When Crocodile Dundee premiered in 1986, it became an unprecedented global phenomenon, turning Hogan into an international superstar. It also completely shattered his marriage to Nolene. Their second divorce became one of the ugliest, most aggressive celebrity splits in Australian media history. Nolene handled the media storm with immense dignity, offering one devastatingly clear reflection: "I had the best years of his life." Following the bitter split, a proud Paul did not speak to Nolene for 17 years. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to check out the other stories and shocking updates on our channel. We've covered many incredible celebrity journeys, tragic endings, and untold Hollywood secrets that you don't want to miss. Binge watch our previous videos to discover more surprising facts, emotional stories, and where your favorite stars are today. Your support helps us bring you more powerful content like this, so don't forget to explore, watch more, and stay tuned for the next video. Living in the Shadow. On May 5, 1990, Paul and Linda married in Sydney. To the public, it was a Hollywood fairy tale. To those close to them, it was the start of a complicated compromise. Initially, Paul was utterly infatuated, openly declaring that Linda knocked his socks off. They continued to make movies together, but sequels like Crocodile Dundee 2 began to wear thin, and other projects bombed comprehensively. As the 1990s progressed, Linda found herself trapped by the industry. She turned down generic girlfriend roles, and the straight-to-video movies she did take gave her ulcers because no one else on set seemed to care about the craft. After their son, Chance, was born in 1998, Linda stepped away from acting entirely. But contentment built on structural sacrifice has a definitive expiration date. Paul wanted a traditional, home-centered lifestyle, while Linda felt she was slowly disappearing into the identity of just Mrs. Hogan. In October 2013, she filed for divorce. Reflecting on the split, Linda told reporters, "I lived in Paul's shadow for many, many years, and it's nice to feel my own light right now." The weight of loneliness. In the years following his second divorce, the physical and emotional toll on Paul Hogan became impossible to ignore. A grueling, 7-year tax fraud investigation by the Australian government drained his spirit, and by his 80s, severe muscle atrophy and chronic pain visibly diminished the rugged outback legend. Linda moved to Morocco, marrying a local tour guide in 2017. Though Paul's management publicly claimed he was delighted for her, sources close to the actor revealed he was completely devastated and deeply lonely in his Los Angeles home. In a bittersweet twist, Paul and Linda reunited publicly in late 2024 for a 4K restoration project of Crocodile Dundee. Standing beside her as a frail 85-year-old, Paul relied on his classic comedic armor to deflect his true feelings, joking that the restoration made him look better. But in quieter moments, his words carried a heavy sorrow. "I once had it all, fame, fortune, and a wonderful wife. But in the end, I still feel like I lost something most important." The family home in Venice Beach grew quieter and more turbulent. In May 2026, police were called to the residence, and Paul's 27-year-old son, Chance, was taken into custody for domestic battery. An 86-year-old Paul stood outside his front door speaking with officers, a tragic image of a father forced to confront the consequences of a lifetime spent chasing the illusions of fame. Today, at 86, Paul Hogan sits alone in his Venice Beach house, walking the coast where he and Linda used to stroll. Across the ocean in Sydney, Nolene is at total peace, surrounded by the quiet life she always wanted. In Marrakesh, Linda is living in her own light, building a world that belongs entirely to her. When Paul Hogan recently looked back at his turbulent journey and confessed that she was the love of his life, his mind undoubtedly went to Linda, the electric, artistic opposite who defined his years of global stardom. But to the audience watching his life unfold, the truth is far more complex. Nolene Edwards was also the love of his life, a deeper, quieter kind of love that knew him before the money, stood by him through the nothing, and remains the anchor of his story long after the Hollywood illusion has faded. What do you remember most about Crocodile Dundee, and how do you feel about the bittersweet road Paul Hogan has traveled? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Before you leave the Outback, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Royal Time of Hollywood, and hit that bell notification